I've got about $10 trillion of assets under management with me around the table, and they're keen to get your insights on the jobs report. A really solid jobs report over the last few months. And around the panel, Larry, we've been talking about whether there's more slack in this labour market. Do you think there is, Larry?
Well, look, depending on the measurements and so forth, I think there's a lot of people who are still outside of, what I'd call the prime age workforce, which is 25 to 54 or some such. Council of Economic Advisors, my great pal Kevin Hassett, has looked at this. The estimates are wide-ranging, but the high end is 22 million people are outside of the prime age workforce. Now, you might dispute that number. On the low side, I think their estimate was about 10 to 12 million. So while labor markets have certainly firmed up and the unemployment rate is down, I think it ticked down to 3.9 today, and you had a good jobs report today, including revisions. It was 215,000. There are still a lot of Americans out there who could come back into the labor force. So I like that. I think our potential to grow is very strong, and with the right incentives, I think we'll get them back working.
Yeah, and talking to you and speaking to Kevin Hassett previously, Larry, it just seems that the administration is waiting for this supply-side response. Has that been your rather nuanced message over to the Federal Reserve as well?
Well, let me stay with the supply-side response and simply indicate it looks to me like we are in an investment boom, a capital goods boom, a CapEx boom. Those numbers are roaring in recent quarters, and I noticed the monthlies on, durables and factory orders are very, very strong. That was the key intention, the primary thrust of our tax cut plan for businesses. 21% corporate rate, full expensing, easy repatriation. I think it's working. Now, it's only been in, 6-7 months, but the early returns on that, just the last couple quarters, are very, very, very strong. That will elevate the whole growth rate and health of the economy. So I like that part a lot. And some analysts, probably not everybody, but some analysts are already making some calculations that the productivity rate, output per hour, output per person, is now starting to creep up again. I think it's probably too soon to say anything conclusively, but I've seen these views, and it looks like we may be moving back to, say, 1.5% to 2% productivity. We were virtually zero for quite some time. This is all good.
Yeah.
This is all good.
Larry, I know over the last couple of weeks we've had a real discussion around this table about whether trend growth in the United States has picked up, and it looks like, relatively speaking, the US is in a position of strength looking into China. Larry, you've sat around the table with the Chinese many, many times. What is your opinion, your insight into what is happening with the Chinese economy currently?
Well, look, I'm not an expert. I do try to follow it, and it looks to me, I don't know, you all may disagree, it looks to me like the China economy is declining in growth. It's weakening almost across the board. And it looks like the People's Bank of China is trying to pump it up by adding high-powered money and new credit and so forth. The currency fall, I think, is partly they've stopped defending the yuan. They think it's going to help offset the U.S. Effort to get rid of their unfair trading. Some of the currency fall, though, I think is just money leaving China because it's a lousy investment. And if that continues, that will really damage the Chinese economy. If money leaves China, and the currency could be a leading indicator, they're going to be in a heap of trouble. And so I'm going to make the case that they are in a weak economic position. That's not a good place for them to be vis-a-vis the trade negotiations. First point. Second point, they better not underestimate President Trump's determination to follow through on our asks. Okay, IP theft, no go. Forced transfer of technology, no go. Non-reciprocal trading on tariffs and non-tariff barriers. The president he's a trade reformer. We've said many times, no tariffs, no tariff barriers, no subsidies. We want to see trade reforms. China's not delivering. Okay, their economy is weak, their currency is weak. People leaving the country. Don't underestimate President Trump's determination to follow through. I'm just telling you. I can't speak for the Communist Party in China. I can speak for our president. Do not underestimate his determination to change trading practices on a fair, reciprocal plane.
One thing you can definitely speak to, Larry, is the strategy of the president. It just seems to me that the strategy of the administration at the moment is to exert maximum pain on the Chinese economy. Is that the direction of travel for you guys, Larry?
I'm sorry, what was the end question?
It's the direction of travel for you guys to exert maximum pain on the Chinese economy to get them to come to the table and change their trade regime.
Well, look, I would maybe rephrase it a bit. I think what we're saying is that we are serious. And in trade, as you well know and your guests know, negotiations often include the use of tariffs. And the president has said time and time again that targeted tariffs are going to be part of the game plan with China unless and until they begin to meet our requests, which so far they have not. In fact, in recent month or so, we've had hardly any conversations with them at all. There is some hint now that they may wish to talk, although I can't say that with certainty. Look, I think the biggest news on the trade front, away from the intransigent Chinese, is our progress with the European Union that occurred last week. President had great meetings with President Juncker. I was involved in that. We're breaking ground. We will have a number of announcements coming up, I hope, in the next 30 or so days with respect to transactions and market opening and increased investments with the European Union. The EU, as you know, turned down a China effort to make a deal. The EU said no. And so you've got now a better story with the U.S. and the EU. We're probably going to have some positive news on Mexico. And I think the alliance, what I sometimes call the trade coalition of the willing to change China's unfair and illegal practices, EU, Mexico, China, Japan, Australia, perhaps Canada will eventually join us as we negotiate NAFTA. I like the position we are in, and I think the president has played his cards very wisely.
Larry, just as a final question, the president has often gone off on his own and talked very high level with an individual leader. What is the prospect, do you think, that we could see President Trump sit down with President Xi again and address these issues together?
Well, you know, President Trump likes bilaterals, and he likes to go head-to-head. You're quite right. That's a good insight. So if the opportunity presents itself, I don't want to speak for the president. I don't want to get ahead of him on this tricky question you asked. But all I know is if the past is any prologue to the future, President Trump enjoys bilateral discussions. Look, we just had one with the EU. President Juncker and President Trump got together and probably did what nobody thought possible, which is not only to have a respectful, peaceable meeting, but to actually begin the process of making a grand deal to open up, tear down barriers and open up markets. So there's your head-to-head model. You may well see it with China. We'll have to see. I don't know.